Hello guys and welcome back. So in today's section we are going to cover the box styling in CSS. As I have said in the earlier video that we are going to cover the layouts part, but before understanding the styling of the layout it is necessary for us to understand the styling of box. So as we have discussed in the HTML section that any HTML element is contained within a box. So if you just right click on this given web page, uh, you just right click and go to inspect element, and you can just select any of the given element. Then you can see it is contained within a box. In fact, the entire body, entire HTML is contained within a box. So what it does is it helps us to design our web page better. So what we can do is we can design the individual boxes, and in a whole we are going to get a fully designed web page. So without wasting much time, let us get started. So this is going to be a lengthy video, as we are going to first discuss the basics and then we are going to design a web page something like this. So let us start. So the very first property for box styling is the height and width property. So let me just have a division here, and inside of the division I am going to define an unordered list. Or before we define an unordered list, let us say that this division contains a paragraph, and we are just writing any random text here. Say this is a paragraph. Okay, so here paragraph. Okay, let me just reload. Okay, so now you can just right click here and take a look at the box. So the basic height and width of the box is the width is the screen width and height is randomly 51 pixels. So let us first change the height and width of the box. So I'm going to use here the internal CSS. You can use inline or say external CSS depending on your requirement. So let us give it this division a class of say container, and let us just define some CSS rules. So we want to design a division, and inside of that division we have defined a class called container, and we want to specify the width of the container should be somewhere around 50 pixels, and the height of the container should be 25 pixels. And let me just refresh the page. Okay, so now whenever you are going to just now you can see here that the height is set to 50 pixels and the width we have set it to so height is 25 pixels and width is 50 pixels. So let me just change so a little bit so it doesn't look weird as it looks now. Okay, so let me just refresh the page. Okay, now you can see that the width is 150 pixels and the entire height of the box is so height we have defined 25 pixels. So you can see that it is just coming out of the box. So what we can do here is we can just change this height to say 50 pixels, and let me just reload the page. Okay, so let us change the width to say 550 pixels and refresh the page. Okay, so that was so now you can see that the height and width of the box is something about 550 cross 50 as we have defined here. Also there are other properties which we can use for the height and width. They are the min width and min width, max width, and for setting the height they are mean height and max height. So I'm not going to specify it right now, but what that does is so let us just resize the page, and you can see here that as we resize the page, it is uh, stopping at a particular point, and beyond that it doesn't changes the size. So what this min width and min height does is it provides a minimum limit. So if we have specified a minimum width for a particular element in a web page, then it is going to stop reducing its size beyond that limit. So whenever we are going to just expand our web page or decrease the size of our web page, it doesn't affect much to the element to which we have specified this min width and min height property. So it is basically used to add the responsiveness to the web page. So as I have said that the width is 550 pixels, and if I am going to specify the min width to say 400 pixels, and let me just refresh, and you can see the default width of this container is 550 pixels, but whenever we are going to change the size of the web page, it must be changed accordingly. So you can see now you can see this scroll bar. So the minimum width of the container is somewhere around 400 pixels. So what we can do here is we can specify this min width and min height property. So let us change this to 400 pixels, and let us see what changes takes place. And you can just right click here, and you can just check for the properties of this paragraph. So you can see now it is 400 cross 50 pixels. So let us add a greater value to this height and width. So let us say that we are giving it the default width of the screen. So if you are not going to specify the width, then it is going to take the default width. And let me just refresh. Okay, so now you can see that the width of this box is the screen width, as you can see here 1350, and the height which we have defined here is 50. Now what is going to happen when I am going to reduce the size of this web page? Then it is going to reduce up to a certain extent. So let us say we want it to be 800 pixels and not less than that. So let me just refresh the page and change the size of it. So now you can see that the box here is continue. Again, let me just cancel this, and you can see that this box sorry, just go to inspect element, and you can see this box continues till a certain amount. You can see this scroll bar here. So what it does is it basically sets the sizing of a box or the content inside the box when we change the size of our web page. The next property which we are going to discuss here is the padding and margin. So let us have a okay, so let us use this paragraph only, and say we are just adding the contents here in order to see the overflow property. So what it does is if the content inside of your box are more than the default sizing of the box, then it is going to add a scroll bar, or either it is going to hide the contents or it is going to show the content with the help of a scroll bar. So let us just define the styling for this paragraph. So in the starting I am going to use list height and list width for this paragraph in order to show the actual use of the overflow property. So let us use the width of 300 pixels, and you can say height of 300 pixels. Let me just refresh. So now you can see that the entire paragraph is contained in this much small amount. So now what we can do is we can add the you can say the overflow property. Let us use the overflow. So it can take two values, either hidden or scroll. So if I say hidden. And let me just refresh the page. So now you can see that a certain amount is, is just disappeared from here, though the content. Okay, so let me just write any random text so it differentiates from this command line. Okay, so you cannot see the text which we have, the last line which we just wrote. So what it does is it just rips off the content, or that it just trims the content and fits the actual content which fits into the height and width which we have specified here. So if we don't want that to happen, you can use the scroll value inside of this overflow property and just refresh here. So you can see that a scroll bar appears here and we can just scroll through our entire content. So it is the basic use of this overflow property. Okay, the next property of our importance is the border. So border, okay, so you can just use any of the border. Either you can use the border to use it on all the four sides, or you can use the border color, border style, image, and you can just go through each of the property. We are just going to use a basic border. So the value which it takes is basically divided into, say, three parts. So first we are going to define the border width. So let us have the border width of 2px. Then we have to define the style of the border, as which kind of border we want. So let us say we want dashed border. And at last we have to define the color. So let us say we want a border of red color. I know that it is a weird combination, but it is only for your understanding. So let me just refresh the page and you can see this border appears here. Let us just hide this overflow for some time. Okay, so now you can see that the content has been extended beyond the scope of the box. So let me just put it as it is. Okay, so let us say we want to have a border of 5 pixels. Okay, so this is for the basic styling of a box. If you want to use border in your web page, then you can using that, or we can have a solid border also. You can have a grooved border, and you can just search on Google for the different styles of border. The next property which we are going to discuss is the border radius. So what it does is it basically provides a curve on the edges of our border. So just we can say we want it to be 10 pixels. Let me just refresh it. So you can now, let me just zoom in. So you can see a basic curve on the edge of this border. So you can have different curves on different borders. So as we have defined in the padding, that it takes 4 values, and the order in which it takes the value is top, left, bottom, right, in the, you can say, clockwise manner. So let us add some different values in order to differentiate it. So let me just refresh the page and you can see here that, okay, so border radius, and you can see okay, let me just zoom in. Okay, let me just refresh the page. Okay, you can see that as of now it doesn't changes much. So what we can do is, let me just remove some of the content from here, and what we can do here is, let me just remove this overflow property. Okay, so now you can see the different edges with different border radius. So that was for the border radius property. The next thing which we can use is, okay, so let me just remove this border radius for now, and okay, and let us just change the height and width so we can see the actual application of the text align property. So we can use a square box of 600 cross 600. So what we can do here is we can use a text align property. What it is going to do is it is basically going to align the text inside of the paragraph in a particular manner. So we can use the justify, we can use left, right or center values. So you can see that it just justifies to the width of the box. The main thing which we have to remember here is that it is going to justify with reference to the width and not with reference to the height of the box in which it is being used. So let us now discuss about the styling of, say, the list elements. So what I am going to do is I am going to use a unordered list, and let us have some elements inside this this unordered list. So 3 are enough. So you can say let me just write about, and you can say login and then sign up. Okay, so you can see this is a very basic unordered list without much styling. So let us add some style to it. So as of now we don't need this paragraph, so I'm going to just remove it. Okay, so we want to design the unordered list, and what we are going to do is we are going to use the display property. So what this display property does is it basically changes the inline element to the block level element and vice versa. So as we all are aware that li is an block level element, and if we want to change it to say an inline element, so we can use this display property. So it can basically take 3 or you can say 4 values. The first one is hidden. Okay, so the first one is inline, which is used for changing the block level to inline. The second is the block for changing inline to block, and the third property is the inline block. What it does is it changes the block level element to the inline element, but they retain their properties of the block level. And the last one is none. So we are going to discuss all of that. So let us now first of all use this inline, and let me just refresh the page. Okay, so now you can see this, the elements are being changed to the inline. What we can use is the inline block property. So let me just refresh the page. Let me just save it and reload. Okay, so I think we have not specified the type selector here properly. So what we want is the li inside of the ul. Okay, so now you can see that it gives it a look of a navigation bar, which we want here, something like that. Okay, so let us add some more styling. So now what we are going to do is we are going to give it a padding. Okay, so not padding to this ul, we are going to give padding to the li only, and we can say we want to give it a margin. Let us give it a margin. So we want to give it a margin of 20 pixels, and let me just reload. Oh, so you can see that it basically applies margin to all the 4 sides. So let us use a background image here. So you can just write background color. Okay, so we are going to use a background image, and you can use any image you want. I have a image with me which I named as back.jpg, and let me just refresh it. Okay, so you can see that it appears behind, or else what we can do here is for now we can use the background color method property, sorry, and we can just set it to the shade of gray which I have used in the actual web page. Okay, So now you can see that it appears something like the navigation bar which we want here. Okay, so in order to look at something like this, we have to add some more styling. So what we can do is, let me just copy paste it from here. So what I have done here is I have set the margin to 0 pixels and the margin of li to 7 pixels and 20 pixels, and let us just use them here. Okay, and let me just refresh the page. Okay, so now you can see a somewhat difference as compared to the earlier styling. So we have to change now the height of the container. So what we can do here is, let us change it to 35 pixels. So I have used 35 pixels here. Okay, and let me just change the text. So I think we have used, okay, so okay, okay, so now the next property which we are going to discuss is the, okay, so we have discussed the display property. The next property, you can say similar to display, is the visibility. So what it does is, if suppose that I use an inline CSS for this pricing and I define a style and set the display, so we can set the display to none, and let me just refresh the page. So you can see that the this li is present here on the web page, but it is not being displayed. So if you just right click and go to inspect element, then you can still see that this li is there on the web page, but just because we have set its display to none, we are not able to see the particular element. If we want to have a blank space for a particular element which we don't want to show, then we can use the visibility and we can just set it to hidden. So what it does is, it is not going to show the content, but instead it is going to show a space in place of that particular content. And if we just set its value to visible, then we are going to see the content which we have hidden earlier. So you can use this property along with the JavaScript to add some effects to your web page. We will be covering that when we start the JavaScript section of the course. So the next property which we are going to discuss here is the float. So what it does is, you are going to have a better understanding. Okay, so not here, we are going to define a float class. So let us say float, and you can say float value to right. Let me just refresh the page, and okay, we have used the float right, and I think we have not used the specifier perfectly. Dot left. So okay, class left, we have given the class left to login and sign up. Let me just remove this for now. Okay, this login and sign up. Okay, let me see what the problem here is. Division container and li classes. Oops, sorry. I have used the wrong name for the class. It was a very silly mistake. Okay, so now you can see the change. Okay, so let us now start designing a web page. So the only property which is left here is the box shadow property. So what it basically does is, let us add the box shadow to our container. Okay, we want the box shadow. So what it does is it provides a effect of shadow to our any of the container or any of the box. So what we can do is it takes basically four values. The first value is for the x offset, the second value is for the y offset, the third value is used to set the blur property, and the fourth is the actual color of the shadow. So what we can do here is, we can say we want the x offset to be say 5 pixels, the y offset also to 5 pixels. We don't want the blur property as of now, so we are going to just neglect it, and we want the color to be, let's say, without any hexa color, we can just use the red. And let me just refresh so you can see this. Let me just zoom in. So basically it appears like a shadow here. So that was the use of the box shadow property. So let me just remove it for now, and let us design our actual web page. So what I have done in this actual web page is I have used a division and set its class to container, and we have used another division and set its class to container1. I am just going to copy paste this. So let me just paste it here, and let us just refresh. So you can see that we have used a basic class called container and a paragraph which says this is a class container1, but we haven't specified the styling yet. So I am just going to copy paste the styling. So from division1, let me just copy paste the entire style tag and paste it here. Okay, so let us just refresh the page. So you can see that it appears exactly as we have discussed about the web page in the beginning. So what changes you can do here is you can just change this li to the anchor text. You can add the anchor element inside of this li, and you can just set the hyper reference to some different pages. You can design that on your own. So that was all for the basic box styling methods, box styling properties. In the next section we are going to cover the layouts part. So now that you have a basic understanding of the box, you can design any web page with the knowledge which you have gained up till now. So that's all for this video, and I'm going to see you in the next lecture. So till then, thank you.